Warning: Superpower Review is intended for a mature viewing audience. This video may show images that are not suitable for kids under 13 years old. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Kevin Vidini here for Superpower Review, and thank you so much for joining me on today's video. Guys, I have a very special guest on today. Today we have Brittany McManus from CGC answering your questions today. Brittany, how are you doing?
I'm doing so great. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm actually really excited to answer all the questions that we talked about and just hopefully clear up some confusion about some of the stuff that's going on with CGC and just get a lot of information out there.
As we should. And Brittany, we have, the questions here from the subscribers, but I want to get to know you a little bit, and I think some of the subscribers want to get to know you a little bit too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at CGC?
Sure. I've been with CGC for 8 years. I am currently the Signature Series Director at CGC. That's a position that I took on at the end of last year. And it was an exciting time in which to take that on because COVID hit and we've moved to a whole new model of doing Signature Series, which is in-house signings. And that was kind of fun to just be at the forefront of all of that and kind of have to learn to be nimble and offer those services despite everything that's been going on this year.
Wow, so 8 years. So what is it like working for CGC? I'm sure it's got to be a blast, no?
I love working for CGC. It's actually, this has been the place that I've been at the longest out of all the jobs that I've had in the past. I would say the thing that I like the most is that no 2 days are really ever the same. Even though many people might be doing the same thing every day is just so different. We get to go to so many shows, we get to meet so many people, we get to travel, we get to see the best comic books in the world every day. I've got to meet so many different artists. I mean, the opportunities and things that I've experienced while working at CGC are completely priceless.
I bet. I mean, I bet you got to meet so many great artists and writers. I mean, so these whole private signings you've been, you guys been hosting at CGC, I really enjoy them, even though I'm not there at CGC. You guys post them throughout your IG story and your Facebook story, and it's almost like you are there. And I remember when you guys had Todd McFarlane there, and you guys looked like you guys were just having an absolute blast with each other.
I mean, it's kind of hard to not have a good time with Todd. He's just a good time as it is. And we could have sat around at that signing like a bunch of sourpusses, and within 2 or 3 minutes, Todd would have everybody laughing. So I have to really thank him because he's kind of the one that gave us the platform to see how we could possibly do this in the future. And he made it easy to get all that social content. He wanted to talk to fans and to interact with fans as much as possible, even though they weren't physically there in front of him. So it was easy. I mean, you just had to turn the camera on and Todd would do everything else.
Right. And you guys just recently had Mark Bagley too. You guys did a live video with Mark Bagley, and he's a hoot, huh?
Yeah, Mark Bagley was awesome to have. He had such a great attitude. I love when artists are down to do live streams. I know that it can be a little bit nerve-wracking to do a live stream because you don't want to say anything live that you can't, take back. And It's just a little bit, I definitely get why people get nervous. But yeah, Mark Bagley and Sam De La Rosa, they just were all about it. Let's go ahead and answer some questions. I had such a great time with them. And he was there for like 5 days. He had a lot of books to sign.
I bet, yeah. And he was doing a lot of remarks too.
Yeah, so many remarks. And again, I feel like for the value for his remarks and what people got back, they really got some bang for their buck because he was doing incredible and big remarks on books. Yeah, Mark Bagley, he was a treasure. I can't wait to have him back again next year.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the private signings that CGC is going to be having in the near future. But before we get into all of that, you said that you've been working at CGC for 8 years. Do you have any funny stories, or there's just that one moment that sticks with you and you think about a lot, working at CGC?
I would say that my personal favorite moment that doesn't necessarily have to do with CGC, but happened because of CGC, was I got to watch a sunset on a balcony with Stanley in
Wow.
San Diego. And I mean, that might be one of the highlights of my life. And I wouldn't have been in that position had it not been for CGC, but yeah, that's on like my life timeline of highlights.
That sounds like a really good memory. So, before we get into the questions for the subscribers, I want to cater to the collectors here that, are beginners and are new into comic books and collecting. Can you just briefly break down what CGC is and what CGC grades?
Yes, absolutely. CGC is the first third-party independent grading company. And what we do is we give unbiased third-party assessments of the condition and the grade of a comic book. CGC is known most for grading and encapsulating comic books, but we also do concert posters, trading cards, and we do sketches and photos as well. We also are part of a larger company, CGC, which is Certified Collectibles Group, and that's part of NGC, which does coins, and PMG, which does paper money. So we're part of like the whole collectibles umbrella. And CGC is the comic book division of that.
Great, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't think a lot of people know how much the company actually branches off into grading other collectibles such as coins. So.
Yeah, I think I have found that so many of the artists that have come to our facility, because we give them a tour when they come, are just blown away by the size of our facility and how many people and how much stuff is there. Because comics is actually not, our coin company is probably far larger in terms of volume than our comic division is. And a lot of people don't even know that we grade coins, so they don't expect to see this huge division of all these ancient coins. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that they get to just see really our sheer size.
Got it. Yeah, very cool. So, we briefly talked about some of the funny stories at CGC about these private signings, and it looks like these private signings are doing really well for you guys. And you guys just released a whole list of artists and writers, comic book creators that are coming to CGC. Do you want to talk a little bit about who you're going to be having in the future?
So we have some coming up. The next big signing that we have is J. Scott Campbell, but we've already cut off submissions for that. We have a lot coming up still this year. Neil Adams, John Romita, Bob Layton. We have Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman coming back for another signing.
Wow.
They're not coming until like the end of the year, I think, or possibly the beginning of January. We have a full list of people. Almost every person that's come to do a signing this year will do one again in 2021. And I hope to just keep adding artists to those lists. So everybody that you've already seen, plus a whole lot more. I should say too, because I know you have a show and I know you're always talking to different people in the community. I want to hear suggestions of artists that you haven't seen yet that you want us to get. I do the best I can with any suggestions that I see coming in on social media. Some people email me directly like, hey, I'm looking for this person. It was a suggestion about Roy Thomas, and I reached out to Roy Thomas's rep, and we were able to make it happen. And I'm so open to suggestions because the whole point of doing this is to give the customers, the people who collect and the people who want signature series, who they want and what they want. So
absolutely.
I want to make sure that I'm always like hearing what the people in the community are saying and who they want to see us get in house.
Absolutely. And if you guys have any questions to CGC, and if you want to request a certain comic book creator, all the information for CGC is in this video's description down below. So let's get into some of these subscriber questions. Are you ready, Brittany?
I'm ready.
So the first question we have is, how does CGC determine what is written on their slabs as key appearances versus non-key appearances, and who determines what is put on the labels?
Everything that goes on the label in terms of artist notes, key comments, is solely at the discretion of the graders, and they decide as a group per book what's going to be on the labels. If a new book is coming out, like a brand new one, research goes into that book, the publisher, the indicia of the book, and at that point in time, before we've even graded one, it's decided what's going to go on the label. if people want to request like a first appearance of a book that maybe might be missing one, or you feel like there's a character in there that's not being recognized and it is their first appearance, we encourage people to make notes on their submissions, like a post-it on the book that you're sending in that says, hey, I think that this should be the first appearance of Thor's dog, and it's not on here.
Okay.
And when they see that, they'll actually have a meeting about it and decide whether or not that's valid or invalid. If it is valid, they will adjust the key comments to reflect that. And if they decide against it, they'll leave it as is.
So the next question is, what are the turnaround times right now at CGC?
We have a few different tiers, so you would have to kind of tell me what tier, but I'll go over a few of the main ones.
Sure.
Moderns are taking about 29 business days. Our economy tier is at 38 business days right now, and our value tier is at 39 business days. We have standard at 15, express at 5, and walkthrough at 1. Those are all on time. Moderns are over by about 10 days. Economy and value are right about where they normally are.
Do you think that, since cons, were pretty much obliterated since the pandemic, that turnaround times were a little bit faster at CGC in the beginning?
Yeah, they definitely were. There is a period of time where books were going out so quickly, but I think as COVID has kind of like settled around everybody and everyone kind of is like, all right, this is the new normal, I think people became more comfortable to start sending books in again, and we just kind of started to get more in, and the turn times are reflective of that. That's not to say that I promise you that the staff is always, our receiving team works 6 days a week, sometimes 12 hours a day.
Wow.
When they have like a lot of mail. So people put in the effort to try to get the turn times down as much as possible. And we're always trying to increase or improve our internal processes to accommodate, to be more efficient, to try to get those turn times down too.
Right. I remember when the pandemic hit and I submitted books for a new holder, and the books were literally at CGC for 2 days and they were being shipped back to me. So I was really happy about that. What is the rarest? Go ahead. What's that?
We'll get back to those turn times again.
What is the rarest comic CGC has ever seen?
Like rarest in terms of least graded or most valuable, or?
Let's do most valuable.
The most valuable would definitely be the Action Comics #1, graded in 9.0, that sold for $3.2 million. That would be the most valuable. I'm not actually sure. I'm sure there's plenty of books on the census that only have a population of 1, but I'm not sure, like in terms of high value books, what's the one that we've graded the least of. But the Action Comics #1, you got to go with that one.
Right. When this question was submitted to me, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's going to say Action Comics #1 because everyone knows about that one.
Incredible other sales of books. There's been some incredible, like I know that the first appearance of Wonder Woman sold in 2019, I want to say for like just under $1 million or possibly just over $1 million. So there's been some other just incredible sales for some key vintage golden age books that are just mind-blowing.
Yes. And to anybody who has them, I don't know how you do it. Does CGC have any plans grading pulps in the near future?
We are looking into how we can grade pulps, but we don't have a timeline on when we'll be able to get that launched or anything, but we are looking into that and treasury books.
Oh, okay. So that answers my next question then. So the next question was, are you offering treasury slabs? I was like, I don't know what that means, but maybe that will mean something to her.
Treasury books they're like super oversized comic books, so They would require a much larger holder too. Pulps and treasury are books that we get asked about a lot, and we are looking for a solution. I don't know when that solution will be available though.
Okay. What does a qualified grade mean?
A qualified grade is usually presented as a green label on a slab, and it is anything that has happened to the book that would normally downgrade it, but the qualified grade is saying this is what the book would be if it didn't have this defect. Most commonly, you see a green label if a book has an unwitnessed signature, because any kind of writing on a comic book or signature on a comic book is essentially degrading the comic book because it shouldn't be there. So we call it signature series, and it helps with the value, but if you have an unwitnessed signature, it's still writing on a comic book. So a qualified grade is saying this would normally be an 8.5 if it didn't have this writing. But we're going to say it does have the writing, and it's actually, with the writing, if you take that away, it's a 9.6. And so a qualified label allows you to get the higher grade and have the defect that would have downgraded it notated on the label.
Great, yeah, and we see this pretty commonly too with books that have the Marvel value stamp that's cut out as well, right?
Correct, yes.
Here's the next question. I have never, this is coming from somebody who's hesitant about getting their books graded, but I have never used CGC before, and I am hesitant. What could you do to make me feel comfortable sending my valuable comics to you?
I love when I meet people at shows that ask me that exact question, and it's actually very easy to answer. CGC has been around for 20 years. CCG, our mother company, has been around for 35. We've graded over 6 million comic books.
Wow.
And the fact is that after 20 years in business and 6 million comic books graded, not, including the highest known sold comic books, CGC's reputation continues to be stellar. We continue to grade comic books and some of the best known comic books. And I think that just the time in the business and the sheer number of collectibles we grade kind of should put people at ease on who are you sending your books into and who's really the authority figure over there. I think when I was mentioning about like the size of our facility, we've had like artists that have come in, and I had Clayton Crane come in once, and he said, I thought CGC would have been 10 people at the end of a strip mall. And I just laughed because we have this huge, like 60,000 square foot facility and, 300 employees, and it's huge. And I think that maybe there's a misconception about maybe what the company is, but I will tell that customer who's hesitant to send them in, I sympathize, because your comic books are your babies, and it's hard to let them go, period, especially if you don't know where you're sending them to. But I don't think that there's a better name in the game in terms of grading than CGC.
Will you guys ever consider authenticating sketch covers without actually grading them, sort of like CBCS does?
Not to my knowledge. We don't have any plans to do anything like that at this time.
Okay. And will CGC be making DC custom labels anytime soon?
I would love to make DC custom labels. I think there's just a lot going on right now at DC. And it's not the best time for us to try to do a licensing deal, but fingers crossed that we get them in the future.
And what about Spawn?
I would love to do image custom labels too, and that is something that I would hope to have in the future.
Maybe we got to get Todd McFarlane on the phone. We want this. We want a Spawn label.
Brittany from CGC. People are Spawn custom labels. One way or another.
Here's a great question, and this one piques my interest too. How does somebody become a comic book grader?
So we are hiring all the time for our grading team as well. You can actually just go to the website under the careers link at the bottom of the website. You'll see a listing for a CGC grader, and you apply. They will have your resume reviewed, and if they think that you are a good match, you come in for a trial interview that's usually about a week long, and you sit with the grading team, and they just assess your skills and knowledge.
Okay, so it's not like a week class or anything.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Any plans to open a international facility such as a Canada facility or a UK facility?
We actually have an office in central London. So we have a CGC office in the UK currently, where you can drop off submissions to be sent here to the US. We don't currently have any plans to open one in Canada, but there have been a lot of requests for that. And I know that custom fees and shipping fees internationally can be very expensive.
That was probably one of the number one question that the channel received, was about a international facility, both in the UK or in Canada.
Well, we took care of it in the UK already. And I definitely sympathize with all of our customers in Canada, because the shipping fees are they're just killer. They're very expensive to ship international, and I wish it wasn't that way. I don't really know a way around that, but maybe down the line, another facility is a good option. I have not heard of any plans for anything like that, though.
Okay. Now, we already sort of had somewhat like a question like this, but any plans to verify or authenticate a signature like CBCS does? Now, we talked about sketch covers. How about signatures?
Like a verified signature, an unwitnessed one?
Yeah, like CBCS will do something like a red label, I think, and that's pretty much that they authenticated the signature and they feel like that the signature is real. Yeah,
we don't have any plans to do that either. A lot of that software, that verification software, isn't 100% accurate, and I think it's just the general feeling that unless it can be proven to be 100% accurate, we're not going to go down that road.
Right, and so I want to say too, if I may, that the whole thing that some customers want CGC to do something that CBCS provides with authenticating signatures that weren't witnessed. That's one of the main reasons why I use CGC, is for that yellow label, because I know it's somebody from CGC that I can trust that has witnessed that signature and knows that person. And if I'm not using CGC, because like I have this thing where when I go to cons, if I'm at cons and if I'm self-witnessing a person or an artist signing my book, I'm not going to get it slabbed. But this is a good tool for when I buy books from eBay. If it has that yellow label, I trust it, and that's why I'm going to buy that book.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, we worked really hard to build the program up, and I just think that we're not going to go down a verified signature route.
Right. So will you be hosting private signings when Comic-Cons come back?
I plan to, yes. I have confirmed with everyone that's done a signing this year for them to come back at some point in time in 2021, and I hope to just continue to do that in conjunction with us doing shows. I think the whole in-house signing thing helps people that don't go to shows. There's plenty of people that can't make it to San Diego Comic-Con, or can't get tickets to New York Comic-Con, or C2E2 is too far away for them in Chicago. This is still a way for people who aren't comfortable traveling yet, or aren't really ready to go back to Comic-Cons yet, or maybe just never did go but would love to see these people anyway.
Right.
They will have an opportunity to get their book signed by the people that you would normally see at a show. Exactly.
And so there was another question about that, and I think I may know the answer to this, but since CGC now has private signings, will we be seeing CGC less at Comic-Cons?
I think that, going into 2021, I think everybody's kind of waiting to see what the Comic-Con situation is really gonna look at. I do feel like we'll probably go to less than we used to, but I think that that's still yet to be determined. I think that we're still waiting for a lot of stuff to unfold. Shows usually start off in like March. I usually think that like C2E2 is the launching pad for all the shows that start throughout the year.
Yep.
And I just think that we don't know what it's going to be like. Are you going to be able to have 150,000 people in a convention hall? Will it only be allowed to be 50,000 people? I don't think that we really know what the new landscape is like. But if we continue to do these in-house signings, I do think that maybe instead of going to, 25 or 30 shows a year, maybe we'll go to 10 or, less.
Or just go to the ones that, have a big audience of people.
Yeah.
Got it. What is the best way to submit comics from Australia? See, we have people from Australia watching.
So I think the best way to submit comics, from anywhere internationally is to use your own account and to ship them yourself. I think one of the things that I discourage people internationally to do is to go through someone else, because you can't track your own submissions when you do that. And I think tracking your submissions, especially if you're international, is one of the only things that you have that can comfort you on where your books are.
Right.
So my number one thing would say, I would sign up for your own account. I would ship them yourself so you have the tracking information. As soon as you know that they're at CGC, we insure them the whole time that they're with us. And you just make sure that you cover your shipping back to Australia. The shipping part is really the only part where you want to make sure you either have insured your books or you bought insurance for the package or whatever service you're using to ship them. But again, I recommend doing it on your own account so you can track it the entire time. If there's an issue, you can email customer service. This is my invoice. This is where it is.
Right.
And you just have full control. I think having full control over your submissions puts you more at ease if you are a little bit uncomfortable about sending your books.
Exactly. And I just want to tell a quick story. There was a time where I was submitting a book to another person who is a CGC facilitator, and it was through their account, and this book was going off to Italy to get signed by Gabriel Delato. And it took 8 months for that book to go overseas and come back, and there was no way of me tracking that book because it was under that facilitator's, under their account.
And it just makes you a little crazy because you want information and you don't want to be annoying and say, hi, I know this is my 30th email to you, but do you have a status in my book?
Exactly. So here is our last question. What is the process of grading a comic?
Our entire facility is under camera, every single square foot of it. So when the trucks come to drop off packages, they pull fully into the warehouse, unload everything. Everything gets sorted to its different companies. The mail is brought into the CGC receiving room. They open the packages under camera. They verify that what you sent in is what's on your paperwork. It gets received. It gets verified. When it gets verified, the paperwork that it was sent in with is removed from the invoice and it's barcoded. So there's just a number that identifies what books they are and who they belong to. It's at that point in time that they go into the grading room. So there's no identification with the books anymore by the time they enter the grading room. They're looked at by a number of graders. Depending on the tier, they will go to the certain section. Modern graders grade modern books, vintage graders grade vintage books, so on and so forth. They'll be looked at by a number of different graders, and each grader will put their grade in until it gets to the finalizer, and it'll take basically, if two people said it was a 9.8 and one person said it was 9.6, it gets the 9.8. After it gets graded and finalized, then it goes into encapsulation. Unless it's an express or a walkthrough book, it'll be finalized again at the end before it gets shipped out.
Got it. Now, I cooked up a couple of questions while you're answering that one. When a book is waiting to get graded, where does it stay? Does it stay in a room?
Oh, we have a huge safe, probably the size of someone's home.
Wow.
4,000 square feet, very large.
So Brittany, that is all of our questions. See, that wasn't so bad, right?
No, that was awesome.
And so Brittany, I really want to thank you for, giving your time to the subscribers and coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
I had a great time, and maybe we'll do this again soon.
Yes, absolutely. And I also want to thank you guys for submitting your questions here at CGC. If you guys are new here, don't forget to click on that subscribe button for future content and to potentially win a free slab book once the channel reaches 2,000 subscribers. And if you liked today's video, don't forget to smash that like button. So guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.